behalf of ICC, our board, the three board members who are coordinating this event, Asif, Shauli, and Paras, I welcome you all to this youth leadership program that ICC is hosting. The whole mission behind this is to engage our youth in ways that will help them plan their own future, their careers, and have speakers that have the experience and the background to address many of the questions or topics or issues that you all may be facing in your own career plans, whether you're in high school or college. And so with that, ICC is really looking forward to bringing these programs on an ongoing basis to ensure that our youth has access, is able to relate, see some experiences from people as perhaps mentors or role models. And, for ICC, it is very critical that we bring about this level of engagement for our youth as we move forward. So with that, welcome you all and enjoy this afternoon's program. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Raj, for that introduction and kicking us off today. Hello, everybody. This is Paras Malhotra, and thanks for joining us on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. I'm on the board of ICC, as Raj mentioned, along with Asif and Shali, and we are excited to bring the Youth Leadership Series to you. We have received great feedback on the leadership series in January and February when we actually kicked off the series, and really looking forward to today's session. The Youth Leadership Series is for middle and high school students to provide them with a forum to learn from and engage with successful leaders in the community about their journeys, how they found their passions, and what leadership means to them. Today, we have two wonderful guests, Samra Ahmed and Avni Barman, to talk about their journeys and achievements. We'll have a Q&A session at the end, so please put your questions in the chat as well. And now I'd like to welcome Samra and Avni. So with a little bit background on both of them. Samra is currently a sales strategy and operations analyst at CrowdStrike. She also has experience as medical scribe and was an R&D researcher. She graduated from Georgetown University with a degree in political science and government, along with a focus in Arabic and a pre-medical concentration. She was very involved at the university, including being the South Asian Comedy Troupe captain, which we really want to hear more about from her. She was also a congressional intern with Mike Honda's office in Washington, D.C. So really accomplished and with great background experience. Looking forward to hearing more from Samra in a moment. And we also have Avni Burman with us today. She's currently an associate product manager at Atlassian. She graduated from University of Southern California with degree in arts, technology, business innovation, and minor in computer science. She's a big advocate for girls in technology and founded Generation She, a nonprofit to address the gender gap in entrepreneurship, which she's going to talk more in detail and how she's been mentoring girls along the way in a moment. And she also led a team chapter of girls in tech at University of Southern California. And with that, we are really excited and thrilled to have both of them here today. Welcome, Avni and Samra.
Hi, thank you so much for the warm welcome. My name is Avni.
Hi, I'm Samra, and so nice to be given the opportunity to kind of speak to you all on just, I guess, my high school experience and college experience, and hopefully provide some sort of words of wisdom for you all.
Awesome. So love to just get started on this. So I'm gonna start by asking Samra a question. Samra, what does leadership mean to you now? And what did it mean to you in high school?
So I think leadership now to me means just like the ability to like lead and guide a team and really just motivating and inspiring people to kind of get them where they need to be. And I think originally in high school, I realized, or over time from high school and then into college, I realized that leadership really isn't just restricted to a certain title. I think you can be a leader even amongst like a group of friends, not necessarily within just like a certain organization or a workplace. And I think in college, I found myself realizing that there were so many people, including myself, like even amongst a group of friends, like helping guide their career paths and kind of their schoolwork and what classes they're going to take and decisions they're going to make. So I think you can really serve as a leader within even just a group. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, a president of a certain club or like the leader of like a certain group at a workplace, but just really just serving as like a friend, really, just to other people, whether it be your friends, your acquaintances, family members, but just being compassionate also, I think, is another really important thing, and just learning about people's backgrounds and kind of what they do and what inspires them every day, because I just find that myself so interesting just to learn about like what other people do, just to give me a better perspective on even within my workplace, like within my own team. I find myself just really kind of digging deep into what I do every day, right? And I tend to forget that there's all these sorts of other departments at work as well too that I just don't really interact with, and just like keeping that line of sight and just having some sort of inspiration from them as well, I think is a true what leadership would mean to me. I guess, Avni, I'll go ahead and ask you the same question. What do you think leadership is to you now?
Yeah, no, I think leadership to me is just, it's truly just taking initiative, like plus one to what you said. This doesn't mean you have to like start a high school club or,
Right.
you know, like come up with something like on campus, right? It's really just taking initiative about something you care about. So I believe that, you know, you can take initiative in like any parts of your life, and that can truly make you a leader. Find something you like really care about, a problem you want to solve, something that you feel uniquely suited to tackle, and like go for it. Try things out, ask people questions. That could literally mean something you do on your high school, in your high school community. It could also mean doing something in your neighborhood, or even just being a leader at home and really taking initiative there. So I think like potentially being a leader to me back in high school and now, like I think I approached it the same way, but I definitely did not understand in high school when I was being a leader or not. And I can kind of look back on it now and be like, okay, yeah, there I was taking initiative because I just truly cared. I was truly passionate. Like that, those were moments where like I displayed leadership. I think today I can now more contextualize it because I'm like older and wiser now and I've had that experience. But ultimately, like leadership is to me just taking initiative.
Yeah, definitely. I guess I can go ahead and ask you the next question, but what are some things that kept you awake at night and kind of stress out in high school? And then now that you look back on those days, what advice would you give to your younger or teen self?
Yeah, no, I think when you're in high school, right, you're very impressionable. So the things that people tell you, the things that you learn about, the things that you see, like there's a lot, an overflow of information that comes your way. And of course, as like a high schooler, you're very curious. You want to try everything, you want to explore everything, you're interested in a lot of things, but at the same time that you're getting this overflow of information from your environment, you're also getting like an overflow of opinions from people. So your professors, your college counselor, your parents, your friends, everyone has like an opinion. And a lot of the times it can be very difficult to kind of sort through those opinions and really look within yourself of like, what do you care about? And what are you most interested in? Where do you want to put your time and energy? So I think that's what I struggled with the most in high school, right? Like I was interested in so many things. I cared so much about everyone else's opinion. I would sometimes find it difficult to navigate through my thoughts and to figure out like, what did I truly care about and what did I truly want? And what did I want to learn about? And so whether it was like, and I think the way that like I dealt with it was like, okay, like let me focus less on what I want. Let me focus more on pleasing other people. Let me, get the good grades for my parents. Let me like apply to the colleges my college counselor wants me to apply to. Let me go like do that club because my friend really wants me to join with her. And I was constantly focused on pleasing everyone else. And I think in the end, what happened was I was a senior in college. I had applied to like almost 30 colleges. I'm pretty sure I only wanted to go to one of them. And I mean, thank God it worked out for me. And I ended up getting into my dream school, which was, very lucky on my part. And I was able to figure out a lot of navigation of those thoughts, like in college, like truly pursuing what I wanted to pursue. But it could have also gone horribly, where I could have ended up at a college I didn't really want to go to, or pursuing a degree I like thought I was good at because maybe some teacher told me to pursue it, but like, did I really want to pursue that? So ultimately, like, this is something that's gonna probably every high schooler is gonna experience. And so I think what I would have told myself is like, pay less attention to making everyone else happy, and to like and focus less on everyone else's opinions, and focus more on like, what do you deeply care about, what is actually resonating with you on a day-to-day, and like truly pursue that, because every decision that you make in high school does have an influence like on your future, in terms of like what college you choose, what major you start with. Everything is temporary and can be changed. So I'm not saying it's like make or break, but you know, the sooner you listen to like your inner thoughts and you really like reflect, the faster you will to like doing something you really love. But yeah, Summer, I'd love to hear your perspectives on this as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think, yes, what all you that you said definitely rings true. I think that a lot of my stress in high school stemmed from making sure, like, yeah, that I didn't disappoint my family, that I didn't disappoint like my friends, and like I felt like I was the oldest child as well too. So like my parents were going through this the first time, and like it's funny to see, because now like with my two younger sisters, like they have a very different approach to parenting. But I think like me being the first child, like the eyes are always on me, right? And like, what am I doing? Are we doing this right? And I think they did a good job of not putting too much pressure on me, but I think I always just wanted to achieve excellence and really pushed myself always. I'm like, okay, if this is not an A, like it's the end of the world type of thing, which is definitely not the right way to look about it. And like now when I'm looking in retrospect, like it really didn't matter at the end of the day. And I think I obviously like from the Bay Area, so it is a very different environment. I think like Bay Area schools in general are pretty like they're pressure cookers, right? So everyone's like always super competitive, striving to achieve excellence. And in my high school personally, I mean, I attended a school that we had 60 girls in our class. So, and there was it wasn't co-ed. So girls like tend to be more, I think, stressed out in general than boys do. So I found myself just like always trying to compare myself to the rest of the girls in my grade. And I think if I were to go back and like tell myself something, like it's definitely that like everything's gonna work out at the end of the day. And yeah, this is all temporary. And like you on a piece of paper when you apply to college, like doesn't determine like who you are. Like your GPA and your like test scores, it doesn't determine like how smart you are or the type of person you are. Because I think a lot of people just think like, oh, if I don't have like this test score or this GPA, like I'm a failure, like I'm like not no good. But that's not true at all. And like at the end of the day, like how successful you are, not determined by that. It's like there's so many other facets, like how interpersonal you are, like developing those skills, like leadership skills, just like getting to know someone, like just like those simple things like that are just so important in your daily life, like beyond college and like just in the workplace. So I think just not putting so much pressure on that is definitely something that I would tell myself just as I look back. But I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, no, for sure agree with that. How did you like know or find your passion in high school? And would you say that passion like still exists in your 20s?
I think that I had like a tough time trying to figure out like, okay, what do I really enjoy doing? Because yeah, I did my schoolwork and then I wasn't a big athlete or anything, so I didn't have sports. But I think that what helped me was what I would do. I would just read the news daily, and then I would flag any articles that like seemed mildly interesting to me. And then like once every like 2 months, and I started doing this in like 7th or 8th grade. And then once every 2 months, I just go back and like look back at like what I flagged. I'm like, okay, what was like anything remotely interesting to me? And then what I would do is I would go to like Khan Academy or like Coursera or like LinkedIn Learning, like those types of things. And then there's so many online courses out there. It's incredible. And just like, they'll just be beginner, like they won't be anything like too in depth, but you can find like beginner courses. And what I did is I did that for like a couple of my robotics interests. And then I was also working closely with an organization called Roshni Academy at the time. So it was many of you may be familiar with it. I think they've done a lot of work with ICC, but it helps underprivileged girls in India. And I was working closely with Saima Hassan, who actually, she's pretty involved in ICC as well. And she ended up becoming kind of my mentor along the way. And she also went to the same high school I did. And she was so helpful in like kind of channeling in on like, okay, what does interest you? And like also using your strengths to kind of guide where those interests lie. Because I think I was always more like a math and sciencey person than like liberal arts. So I found myself like on the robotics team, and then just like taking more math and science oriented classes where I could like come senior year and when it comes to electives and stuff. And I also found kind of my interest in politics that way, and which ended up kind of inspiring my will to go to Georgetown, because I like obviously in DC, kind of the heart of it all. So I found that, and then also just my interest in Arabic and languages as a whole, I was super interested in. So I ended up applying to Georgetown as a Arabic major, and which is why same with Avni, like I got so lucky in terms of getting into my dream school as well, because I did apply to like 30 colleges as well. And like, it is a very stressful process. And my thought about it was like, okay, the more I apply to, like the higher chance I'll have to get in somewhere. Right. So I think that was also just very important to me as well. Just like finding what I enjoy doing, because at the end of the day, like your parents say, like, no, you should like go the engineer route or go the pre-med route. And I think I got that from my grandparents a lot, because my parents, they were born and raised in America, but like they still had those like those feelings about like, oh yeah, you should go like that direction. Don't like, what's the point of studying like language and like government? Like that's not going to really help you in your career. But and then like my grandparents especially. So I think I was like, look, Georgetown's a great school. Like I think I would have a great time. Like DC is amazing. And I think it took a lot of convincing. And like at the end of the day, your parents, I think it might seem like they're like out to get you at times, but at the end of the day, they just like, they want what's best for you, right? And I think if you clearly articulate like, okay, mom and dad, this is what I want, this is what makes me happy, it's not always just like 2-degree paths to go, or like law even. Like it's not just those 3 things. There's so many other things where in the area beyond that, it's yeah, super, super important to note to them. So yeah, I think I just talked a lot about that, but yeah, that's about it. So the passion, did you answer that question, Evie, already? The passion one?
No, I can say a little bit about it.
Okay.
I think one thing that you get a lot of pressure from in high school is like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, what do you want to major in, right? Such a big thing. And I think when I was in high school, I was constantly like thinking about this, because I was constantly being asked this question from everyone around me. And so I was pretty good at math. Like I was in upper level math classes pretty early in high school. And so there was this push of like, oh my God, like you're so good at math, like you should do engineering, you know, like you should pursue like these STEM fields. And I was like, okay, yeah, like that makes sense, I guess. Sure. I really pursued that thinking, but then in that process of really diving deeper in that, you know, and thinking I was gonna like pursue engineering in college and stuff, I ended up losing a lot of the things that I did truly love, which was I was an artist, and like design and art was like a huge part of my life that made me happy. And so there was this like constant inner battle. And also I like loved entrepreneurship and like business. So like there was like a whole other side of me that was like doing a lot of that stuff on the side. And so I was constantly perplexed by these emotions, like constantly feeling like I have to pick one. Everyone's pressuring me to pick one. I'll just pick the one that everyone thinks I'm good at. And so that's what I did. And one thing that I want to like highlight right now is like, you don't have to pick one thing and pursue it. There is merit to being interested in multiple things, and that might be your thing. So I kind of, through this like journey process, I realized I didn't actually want to be an engineer. And I frankly, I didn't even want to be an artist either. What I really wanted to do was I wanted to explore the intersection of the 3. I genuinely cared about these 3 things equally. And like, I didn't I didn't need to actually choose. The truth is when you graduate and you go into the real world and you pursue careers, there's no such thing as one job that takes one skill. That's like not real. And I was constantly under this perception that, you have to pick one thing, you have to be good at one thing, and like that's that. And like everything else is a hobby, things you do outside your job. And that's not true. So I want to like emphasize that, if you like multiple things, that's amazing. Find a way to do both at the same time. There's like numerous careers that you don't even know exist that actually use an overlapping number of skills. As a product manager today, I equally have to think like a designer, work on technical specs with engineers, and be a leader and drive vision and strategy as you would for someone in business every single day at the same time. And so ultimately there is a world where I'm equally able to pursue all the things I care about. And that's not something I knew as a high school and going into college. That was something I learned very like later on. And I think I wish someone had kind of told me like, hey, like no pressure, you don't have to choose, like you're allowed to like multiple things and explore that. And if you're the type of person who likes one thing, amazing, perfect. Like you have a very clear vision of like where you want to major in. And if not, that's fine. There's so many colleges today that actually encourage you to have interdisciplinary thinking, interdisciplinary programs and degrees, and where when you pursue that, you can really understand like what the best role, what the best career is for you. So definitely very okay to like multiple things, and don't feel pressured to like silo yourself in one place.
Yeah, for sure. I like totally agree with that. I found myself having the same line of thinking as well. And once I got to college, I like ended up like studying so many different things and like switching my major so many times. And I guess that kind of goes into our next question of me, like how did I chart my career path during college life? And then like, did I end up changing my major along the way and like helping pick a major to help with my job later on? And it's actually really funny because I applied to Georgetown as an Arabic major. So I came into college as an Arabic major. I loved studying the language. It was like my passion. And then I slowly realized that like the Arabic major requirements were very insane. It was one of the hardest majors at Georgetown. And I realized that it wasn't the most practical major because when I wasn't sure what I wanted to do at that point. So I ended up just switching that to a minor, but then I figured, okay, what will my major be if I graduate or when I graduate? And I was like dabbling around. So I debated moving to the business school actually. So I took an accounting class, realized that was not meant for me, did not switch into the business school. And then I thought about switching into the School of Foreign Service, which is another school part of the undergraduate at Georgetown. And then that was like, I didn't see myself pursuing a degree or pursuing a career in government. So I didn't do that. And then I ended up majoring in government within the College of Arts and Sciences. So it wasn't specifically the government major in the College of Arts and Sciences versus the School of Foreign Service, which is specifically just meant for like people who want to typically go into a career within the government. So my major was a bit more versatile, so I could go basically do anything once I graduated. Yet I was still studying something that I truly enjoyed. So I was a government major and Arabic minor, but then around like junior year, I believe it was, I was thinking about it more, and I was like, you know what? I was always good at the sciences. Like I feel like I should just like take the recs for my pre-med requirements at least. Otherwise, I'll regret not doing it. So I think, it was the summer between my sophomore and junior year, I decided this. So instead of moving out of pre-med, which most people typically do in college, I tagged that on to my degree. And then I ended up doing a pre-medical concentration as well. So I squeezed all the classes in to the last 2 years. So I ended up doing summer classes as well. And I think a lot of that pressure did come from like extended family and just being South Asian, like so many people are doctors, and I'm a person who I needed to know what I was going to do when I graduated and like have that clear path, because I just like having everything set for me. And I've slowly come to realize that like it doesn't always have to be the case. Like you don't always have to know what's going to be going on like 5 years from now, 3 years from now, or even like next year, right? Like I've learned to live in the moment kind of now, because back when I was pre-med, I was planning on taking a gap year between my undergraduate and medical school and apply during that gap year, which is when I was scribing at UCSF and doing some R&D research for a biotech company. And then I realized that during my gap year, I'm like, what am I doing? This does not I don't have a true passion for medicine, and I don't see myself going to school for another 10 years to do something that I don't feel that passion for. And that's obviously a lot of dedication in terms of time and just energy to go towards something that I may not necessarily love. And that's when I talked to my parents. I was like, look, I think I might not apply to medical school. It's crazy because I had taken the MCAT twice. My applications were ready to go and to apply. And I told myself, I was like, okay, if I apply and if I get in somewhere, it's going to be really hard to say no because it's med school, obviously. So it's really tough to just decline to med school, I feel like. And then I told my parents, I was like, look, I don't think I'm going to apply to med school. And it's okay, so what are you going to do instead? And I had no idea. I was so lost. And I grew up in the Bay Area, so I was always exposed to the tech industry throughout high school. And I was interested in robotics. So I figured, you know what, I'm just going to try to get my foot in the door somewhere and I'll see how it goes. I don't have to stay there. I don't have to I'll just see what it's like. So I ended up finding an opportunity at CrowdStrike. So we're a cybersecurity company, and I started off in sales, actually did that for about 8 months, realized it was not for me. And then I switched into sales operations and strategy. So I think what Avni said rings very true, because when in her job, for example, you end up using so many different facets of not what you just studied, right? It's a lot about your interpersonal skills and how you lead and whatnot. And that's totally the same for me, because I do not have a technical background. My degrees in government and Arabic and pre-med, nothing to do with what I'm doing right now. So I think you'll slowly come to realize once you graduate college, especially when you're on the job market, is that you really just need to have a good education, a good college background, and study what you're truly passionate about. And honestly, you'll find somewhere and eventually find your path. And I still don't know what my end goal is, right? I don't know if I want to still I'm considering business school. I also am I think I'd like to stick in tech, but I don't know what exactly I want to do. But I think just as long as you feel passionate about the company you're working for. So for CrowdStrike, I feel I'm still helping people at the end of the day, because we stop the biggest breaches from happening. And that, whether that's at police stations, for the government, at for hospitals and whatnot, we really keep the infrastructure together. So I feel that's where my love for helping people comes in still, and that's really why I wanted to be a doctor, I think, but I just didn't see myself going that route. But I feel I'm still I feel I'm doing something for the broader community, and I'm really helping our community out in a way. So I think I had a lot of just movement, but I'm really happy with where I am now. And I think all the stress that I was stressed about in college and high school, and what class am I going to take this semester, and small things like that, really didn't have a huge impact on what I'm doing today. Avni, do you want to go ahead and answer that question?
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I love what you said, which is sometimes you need to go through certain things to get where you end up. Maybe government's not particularly applicable to you now, but it's not it wasn't a critical part of your journey. Right. So one of the questions actually in the Q&A is if we change our major, does it take longer to finish college? And I'm going to answer that at the end after I bring my experience, because that's actually a really, I would say, controversial question that people ask all the time. But for me personally, when I started college, right, I started a degree, arts, technology, and business. What is that? That's everything and also nothing. It was extremely broad. There was just innumerable careers that could come out of it. And I was very lost, as much as I absolutely loved the day-to-day of college. And I was so content learning all these different things. I didn't really understand what my next step was for in terms of a job or really starting my career. So what I personally did to figure out that is I just started applying to all jobs and doing like hundreds of interviews,
Yeah.
not necessarily to get the job. I figured if I can't do 50 internships to test out all these careers, I can maybe do like 50 interviews and like micro, like
Yeah.
experiment and like micro understand what these different careers are. And if anything, I was interviewing them, like trying to kind of put myself in their shoes and understand the types of careers I have, the types of jobs, like what was that day-to-day look like what type of skills would I need. And after doing that for like a few months, that's kind of how I discovered and landed on product management. And at this point, I felt really confident about this. I had really explored so many careers from like marketing to engineering, design, like literally so many things that I knew that like the best place that I would be most passionate about and had most skills or like really saw myself doing well was a product manager. But what the discrepancy there for me was, while I did feel confident going into it, what industry at that time was looking for was strict computer science engineers to apply to this job, even though most of the skills, frankly, I don't think any engineering is used on the day-to-day of a product manager. That's what recruiters were looking for on your resume. So I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to let this small obstacle stand in my way of like my dream career. Why don't I go and just get a CS minor, knock that out, and then I'll be qualified and like improve myself. Then I like basically like in order to really like showcase on my resume that I was technical, I went out and I was like, got a software engineering internship at LinkedIn. Did I think I was going to be a software engineer when I grew up? No. Did I know that was a critical part of my journey to get to be a product manager? Most definitely. I think that's the reason why I ended up getting the job that I did, because they truly believed that I was technical and I could tackle being a product manager for a technical company. And so going back to the original question that was asked, which is like, if we change major, does it take longer to finish college? So like, yes and no, right? I think it depends on one thing. One, like, I didn't exactly change major, right? Like I added a minor. I was able to graduate on time. I added this minor as a junior in college. Very late in the game did I like have this realization, and everything went totally fine. The other thing is if you do change your major, and if that's something you care about, you want to make sure you pick a school that actually allows for that flexibility, and then you will graduate on time. So for example, at USC, and I'm going to speak about the experiences that I know, but at USC, right, you are allowed to really jump across the different schools, pick different majors. A lot of things are transferable, and they will really work with you to make sure that you graduate on time and you graduate with the skills and experiences that you want. That's because it's a private school, and also they cultivate a very interdisciplinary learning. There are other schools where they have less resources. Maybe it's not a private school. Maybe interdisciplinary degrees are not commonplace. You want to really investigate in the culture of the school you're applying to, and if that freedom of choice and the ability to change and convert across schools and across majors is important to you, then you might want to consider that in your college search to make sure that whatever environment you do end up going from college is a place that you can thrive, and that like ability to like change your mind is like there for you without really holding you back and making you graduate late. So that's why I said yes and no, because I think it really depends on the place that you end up. And so if you're in high school and that's something you care about, like do your research and figure out the schools that really allow you to do that. I think I got very lucky in the sense like I chose a program, arts, technology, business, that was generic enough that really gave me the freedom of choice. Like, do I want to be an engineer? Did I want to be an artist? Did I want to find a world where I could do all three, which as a product manager, right? So that's kind of like my experience with that. Cool. So I can jump into the next question. Samra, this is I think like something that is like something that we all deal with on a day-to-day basis. The question is, how do you address feelings of inadequacy in high school, and how do you handle the pressure you feel from parents and peers? So yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I think just like feeling really confident in who you are is super important, and just not always trying to gain like the acceptance of other people, I think is really important, because in high school, as you said, Avni, like you're super impressionable, right? So and you're still trying to develop who you are and like what qualities you want to embody as a person. And I think just really kind of staying in your lane and focusing on what you want at the end of the day and not worrying about like what other people want, because you're the person going to college and you're the person who's going to be living this life, right? No one else will be. So I think that it is something, a hard skill, I think, to have at that age. And you will definitely develop it come college, come when you're working past college. But I think just making sure and reminding yourself that this is like not the end all be all. Like there is more to life than just like getting into a good school or like getting a good job at the end of this, right? And I think it's really important, especially for like South Asian kids, to know, because yeah, parents can be super on top of you and be like, look, like you need to always achieve like excellence and you don't always be like the perfect A student. But like that, yeah, I mean, it is like you should self-motivate yourself and like try to do the best that you can. But if that's not necessarily having straight A's along your grade book, that's okay, right? And it's okay to not have that perfect test score, like near perfect. Like it's not the end of the world. So I think and to handle just like the pressure in general, I found myself just hanging out with my friends a lot, honestly. Like I think come like junior and senior year, it was super like just like everything was just like school. And like every weekend, like all my friends would always be just like in their room studying constantly. And it's just not a healthy environment, to be honest. Like you need to relax and you need to just like go have fun with your friends one night, like go out to dinner, go do whatever makes you happy. Just it's not like always about, and just like managing time well, I think is also just important. Just do your work on the weekdays, like have fun on the weekends, and like just making sure you have that balance, because like you get burnt out, honestly, like if you continue doing that. And then even in college, if you continue doing that, and in college also, I think I found myself it was so much fun. Like at the beginning, like you have a tough time trying to manage like, okay, schoolwork along with like hanging out with your friends and like not getting a good night's sleep, because you can't really, it's hard to have all three, but then you slowly learn to manage your time as time goes on and come like sophomore, junior year and beyond. And I think I found, and I think my high school, like I was very well prepared for my college, just academically. And I found myself just really on top of things when my friends weren't. And just like, found myself to be super organized and just like felt very prepared. And I think that's a lot of the Bay Area schools are just, they're such good curriculums as well as, and a lot of kids I've spoken to who've come out the Bay Area school system, they felt so prepared in college, wherever they went, whether it was private or UC or public school. In college. And yeah, I think it's important to have fun, because I got involved in so many different things on campus as well. And I can talk about that in a bit, a little later on. But I think just make yourself happy. It's like, do what you're passionate about, like whatever that is, like whether it's volunteering or like being part of like a really, like there was a puzzle club, for example, at Georgetown. I really loved doing puzzles, and like we would just like literally sit there for like an hour once a week and we would work on puzzles. It was like very simple, but it was a very just like stressless task and just like gets your mind off of everything. And those are the types of things which are nice in college, because like you can find people who are so like-minded to you, and like because there's so many different options of like who you can be friends with and who you can hang out with and what clubs you can be a part of. So I think just like do what you love at the end of it.
Yeah, no, I plus one to all the things you said. To me, when I think about the word inadequacy, if you think about it, it's a pretty vague word. Like, what does that really mean? It means something different to everyone. And frankly, all it is, it's relative, right? Maybe in this specific area, you feel inadequate compared to like this peer, or maybe in this specific skill, you feel inadequate to this other peer. So I think when you're trying to think about inadequacy, like don't compare apples to oranges. Like that will really get you down. For example, when in high school, I went to like a pretty STEM focused college preparatory high school. Research and like all the things that have to do with like science and lab, like not really my interest. All my peers, everyone around me were like excelling. I was like in that area, and I was like, okay, I need to be more like them. Like that's the definition of success, to be good there. Like I feel inadequate in this area compared to my peers because they're really good in like this specific thing. So what I did is I like started to pour myself in that area, tried to expose myself. What ended up coming out of it is I ended up getting this opportunity to illustrate for the science textbook. Totally not what my peers were doing at all. Like they were actually doing the science research, and I ended up going in there trying to do the science research, coming out, finding an opportunity that directly addressed my passion as an artist. And in the end of that experience, I reflected on it for a bit at the moment. I was like, okay, like no, this is not necessarily like exactly what they're doing, but that doesn't necessarily make me inadequate. It's just different. I'm just tapping into my interests. I don't have to be like the rest of my peers if that's not what I'm interested in. And so would you say that like in that moment, you could say like, oh, she's inadequate in STEM research, but then are my peers also saying, oh, I'm inadequate in illustration, right? So ultimately it's relative. So don't try to compare yourself to others. What happens when you get older, that feeling turns into like imposter syndrome. And so you constantly have imposter syndrome if you're constantly thinking about how other people compare against you. And then you feel like maybe in rooms that you're supposed to be and you feel like you're not supposed to, and that you're not actually adding value or contributing. And that can be pretty toxic because then you end up losing morale and confidence, and it really shows up in the work you do. But at the same time, imposter syndrome is something that everybody experiences. And I think what we need to do as a society is start to normalize these feelings. Okay, if you feel inadequate, if you feel imposter syndrome, that's normal. That means you're actually pushing yourself and challenging yourself to feel better. And so I think these feelings should not be associated with negative emotions. In fact, these should be normalized as like, oh, these are great things, because if you're too comfortable, if you're too content, you're too satisfied, then maybe you're not pushing and challenging enough to be better, to learn more, and to grow. And so I feel like everyone feels these ways all the time. I feel this every day. I used to, I still do now, but I don't necessarily like put myself down for it of like, oh, why do you feel this way? This makes you a bad person. Not necessarily. I take those emotions and you can channel them into something positive and productive. Like, okay, I feel this way because I'm putting myself in a challenging new environment so that I can come out of it stronger and better. So constantly putting yourself in that environment and feeling that way is honestly like not the worst thing. And so when you do feel that way, don't like beat yourself down, and try to use it to like productively channel that energy.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I totally feel the same way. I guess going on to the next question, how do you feel or how did you prove your leadership capabilities in high school? And kind of, I guess not everyone's always like a leader of a club or like a president of like the newsletter or something. So what did you do for that?
Yeah, so great question. I didn't have any desire to be the president of a club or to really like do anything specific on campus. What I was really passionate about was like I mentioned 100 times in high school, I was really passionate about art. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to bring that art to my community. And I didn't really know like how to go about it and do that. Like I would try to volunteer at homeless shelters and hospitals, but then they would end up doing like more admin work. But what I truly believe that art had an impact on their mental health, and that I could really like bring something unique to the table. So instead of going and like starting an art club on campus, which didn't really have much meaning or purpose to me, I went out to my community. I started an art program, and I like launched this art program across hospitals and homeless shelters in the Bay Area. And so to me, that's, being a leader, which is thinking about what you care about and taking initiative. It doesn't have to specifically be in the constraints of like what's already said in high school. In fact, is that even leadership if you're just kind of, going about the normal way to do things, right? So I don't think like true leadership is, following the crowd and trying to like beat out the competition to be the president of that club on campus, but really think about, what do you care about? What do you want to see in the world? maybe it's something on your high school campus that exists today, but maybe it's not. And go out, take initiative, and like see what you can do to make a difference in that place.
Yeah, definitely. I think in addition to that, just like along the way while you're doing that and taking that initiative, just like being confident in who you are and also just like maintaining a lot of optimism. I think I found myself in high school just being very just like pessimistic. I'd always look at the half class empty. I'm like, no, I won't be able to do that. And or like get into the school or like take an initiative like outside of school to do something, like start a club or something. But I think just, yeah, being confident, considering your strengths as well is super important. And like, if you're good at something, like dive into it a little bit deeper. Try to show, I think, on your college applications that like you're super passionate about one thing, because I think just having that, just diving into one thing versus just trying to do everything on the like that everyone's trying to do, like be part of a sport and then also be part like a president of a club and also like be part of the government and then like trying to do all these different things. And like it takes up a lot of time, right? Instead of doing that, just like channel your energy in on one thing that you're super passionate about and just hone in on that. And like I think when it comes to colleges, at least like when I was applying, I don't know how things have changed now, but that was also just like 6-7 years ago. But just figuring out what your true passion is on paper and showing that on paper is also, I think, super important just when it comes to colleges. I guess there's one more question that I'll ask you, Avni. So how did your Indian ethnicity impact your choices? And do you think it's important to maintain your Indian traditions and values?
Yeah, I know that's that one. I feel like I didn't really think about this much growing up. I mean, growing up in the Bay Area, you're surrounded by a lot of Indian culture, and I was like very privileged and lucky to have like a lot of Indian friends and feel very connected to who I was as an Indian American and really like practice like the traditional culture and values in my day-to-day life. I think when I went to college, definitely huge difference. There's a lot less diversity. And then when you get out of college and you actually like are an adult in the real world in your job, you see even less of that. So as I've gotten older, I've consistently asked myself this question, and I feel like it's had a deeper and deeper meaning to me and something I care about more and more. As I get less and less exposure of it, I start to, realize how grateful I am for it and how much I took it for granted when I was younger. So for me, I think it's really important that I'm consistently reminded of my culture, and that is something that I like identify with strongly. And so you'll find that as you grow older, especially if you grow up in the Bay Area and you're like very much surrounded by that, like the rest of the world is not really like that. And so treasure those moments and continue to really practice like recognizing your identity, your culture in day-to-day life, and just like love the fact that you're Indian American, because it's like a great thing.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Samra, thank you so much. I'm just doing a time check. I think we can have this discussion for another hour or so. This is amazing. Such a passionate discussion about your background, your experiences. So thank you so much for sharing. I know we have a couple of questions in the chat as well, but I do have a burning question for Avni, because I'm really interested to learn about Generation She, the nonprofit that you started. And I know, Samra, you talked about having a mentor and how important that is. So Avni, could you talk a little bit about that nonprofit and how that could help maybe some of the girls who are interested in technology?
Yeah, definitely. So I founded a nonprofit 2 years ago called Generation She, and we're on a mission to close the gender gap in entrepreneurship and leadership by bringing more opportunities and resources to high school girls. And so one thing that I would love to talk about is we have a Slack community available. I'll type this in the chat, but it's generationshe.co/community. You can go there and join this community, and you'll be able to not only interact with other like-minded teams the same age as you, but you'll also be able to receive mentorship and guidance from industry leaders and other female founders, and even other college students and student entrepreneurs. Anything to know about pursuing future careers in entrepreneurship, design, technology, and so many more things alongside college app experience and even learning about other opportunities and internships available for high schoolers. And you can also learn more about like how to start a business and build a tool set of skills that fall under like numerous different careers, not just entrepreneurship. So definitely feel free to join that. And if once you join the community, you can directly engage with me and receive mentorship, not just from me, from the rest of my team. And there are a bunch of incredibly talented and smart, young, ambitious women, all the way from high school to college and beyond. So definitely encourage you to sign up. The link is in the chat. Thank you for putting that there.
No, awesome. That is such a great initiative specifically for women and girls in tech. So thank you for sharing that, Avni. I know I've learned so much in this session, and I was just taking notes because I want to make sure my daughter, who's in middle school, is seeing you as a role model, right? So thank you for taking the time. And a couple of things that kind of I took notes on. One was, how do you really define leadership? And we've seen this trend from our other sessions as well. It's a leadership of one, you taking the initiative and coming with some ideas that you care about, things that you want to change. So it kind of starts with being a leader of one. So that was awesome. And I love you talk about your passion, finding the passion. And it doesn't have to be one thing, right? I think some of the times you always think, oh my God, I just need to find my one thing. And I loved hearing from you. It doesn't have to be one thing. You can try different things, see what you like, what you don't like, and having that open mindset, which was awesome. And then, you're talking about being influenced, right? I think even as adults, we're always influenced by others in terms of, what we want to do or what they want us to do, parents, teachers, friends. So I love the part that you actually, talked about that and brought that top of mind for other students who are listening in, because they will always be, people will always have opinion, but kind of know what you want to do and stand up for, what you think is right for you to do. And I know, Asif, you have a few questions as well, and we have a couple in the chat. So maybe with that, I will pass it to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Paras. Yeah, we've got a few questions. The first one, I think, got answered during the conversation between Samra and Avni. The next question is, what do you expect from your parents, teachers, and senior students ahead of your school and college? I think the question is more generic, that before you get to high school as well as to college, what is the general expectation? I think coming from a student who wants to prepare himself or herself. It's himself, actually, Mukund.
I can start off.
Yeah, please.
I'm sorry?
Okay. I was just directing the question to you.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think that just having super supportive parents and just supportive friends and just a solid group of just a support system is super important, because high school is obviously stressful. Like, everyone has a tough time, and like it's hard socially to navigate. It's hard academically to navigate sometimes. So having that, and then also before college, I think same goes for that, because like if you end up leaving home typically, and if you're leaving the state, for example, like I went all the way to DC from California, and just having like at first it's weird, right? You're like living across the country. You don't really know anyone. You're just meeting everyone for the first time, and like that can be very daunting. And like I think initially, like first semester of college, I was homesick. I was debating. I was like, oh my God, I was questioning my decision. I was like, oh my God, I miss all my friends back home. I miss my family. Like, this lifestyle is so different, because it was like the East Coast, the weather was cold, like everything was different, right? So I think, but at the end of it, I think having that experience so early on in my life, like I was still 17 when I started college, and having that experience when I was like 17 years old and living away really just made me independent, and like just figuring out things on my own is like so important. And I think with a lot of South Asian families, like they kind of think, oh, like my kids should stay closer to home, like they should be near me, like it's important for them to be close to me. But I think having gone through that myself and being away like in DC for 4 years was like incredibly important to just like make myself grow personally, just like, and honestly, like doing laundry on my own, like simple things like that are just so, and like cooking and stuff are such important qualities, I think, just for your day-to-day later on. So I think just having that experience and expanding my like surroundings, because the Bay Area is really a bubble. I think Avni mentioned before, like you're not going to constantly be surrounded by like so many South Asians, and like it'll be a lot different in terms of the backgrounds of people you're interacting with. And also just like navigating on how to deal with different types of people and different personality types is like such an important skill set to have as well.
Got it. Got it. Avni, this next question is for you. Does it make a difference to which major you choose if you're a boy or a girl? This is an interesting question, actually.
I go with absolutely not. There's absolutely no relevance to your gender and the degree that you pursue. Girls and boys are equally have the same abilities regardless. And so I would say, like, really listen to your heart, really try to figure out what you're passionate about. I think we often think that what we're meant to do and what career we're meant to pursue is something that's innate within us, that we're just supposed to know and it's supposed to click with us. That's not true. You have to go and put yourself out there and experience things and try to explore opportunities, try to learn a lot of things, and then something will stick and resonate with you. So it's an active effort. It's not something that you wake up one morning and you just come up with. So I would say in that process, there's no right or wrong answer to like what you end up pursuing, what career you end up going forward with, but there is definitely a way to find that, and that's to be open-minded, really go out there and pursue many opportunities. Don't close yourself off to anything. That could be anywhere from, you know, going to events and networking to doing like a part-time job or doing multiple internships at once, taking classes in schools you know nothing about that are completely different from your major today. In those ways, you can really figure out what it is you love and what's really resonating with you. And you never know, you might discover something you never thought you'd be interested in.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This is the final question, at least on our Q&A. So I'll start with I'll start by pointing this question at you, Avni. What are some of the, both of you touched upon extracurricular activities, but this is a very specific question. Anything that you engage yourself in to keep your mind off all of the stuff that a typical high school student has to go through?
Yeah, so I can start. I mean, extracurriculars in high school, I think I did like 100, like I don't even remember. I think some that really resonated with me was dance. I was part of the high school dance team, and also I did Kathak, this Indian classical dance on the side. I think that for me was a way to like escape from the day-to-day dread of school and like stress of homework and exams. That was really a place for me to like rest. But I think, and that's just one of like many things that I did, but I think one thing that I learned coming out of 4 years of like so many extracurriculars is it's really much better to be very invested and very good at one extracurricular rather than dabbling in hundreds and really spreading yourself thin. That's the best way that you can really stand out and generally excel and be unique as an individual that colleges take notice of, that your community takes notice of. And for me, I think that was community service and really taking a leadership initiative and founding my own nonprofit in high school and really understanding like what it takes to really start something and lead something, and really what it takes to like build a program around a problem that I care about in a space that I'm truly passionate about. And so ultimately that took a ton of time, and because I spent most of my time really cultivating that interest and developing that program, I felt like I could uniquely use that experience to apply to college and stand out. Whereas, you know, if I had continued to do the hundreds of extracurriculars I started high school with, dance or, you know, like research, whatever, I don't think I would have been able to stand out in one particular thing where I would be able to cultivate a learning or experience that is generally like, I guess, noticed.
Got it. Samra?
Yeah, I think I was super passionate about, I think I mentioned this earlier, about Roshni Academy. And I started off the chapter at my high school for just that, a collaboration between my high school and the Roshni Academy girls in India and in Delhi. So we had a pen pal program. We actually went to India and interacted with the girls there as well. And I think that was like that one thing I was most passionate about. I was also super interested in robotics as well. So those were like the two main things. And I think in college, I had a slightly different experience than Avni did. I think in high school, I had like very few South Asian friends, and because my high school was didn't really have many South Asians at the time. So I wanted and was looking for that, having like really close South Asian friends in college. Which is why I ended up getting involved in like the South Asian comedy troupe. And then I also ended up becoming the president of the South Asian Society eventually in college. And I having that experience and just having that I didn't only have just only South Asian friends, but just having that like outlet and having people who had like were like-minded and had similar backgrounds to me, just I think also made me feel a little bit at home going so far away. So I think that was also just having that support system of like having similar-minded people was super cool for me as well.
Thank you so much. Those were all the questions I had, and I think we are coming to the bottom of the hour. So, Paras, you want to say a few things before handing over to? I think there are a couple of other board members who wanted to talk about the other programs.
Yes, so thank you, Asif. Again, thank you, Avni and Samras, for such a great discussion and for your time. My three takeaways from this discussion is one, being leader is taking the initiative. That's the first step. Second, have the passion to find what you love. And third is don't be influenced by others. Kind of, know what you want and go after it. You shared that in such clear ways and with your experiences. So I'm really grateful that you were able to spend some time with us today, and great Q&A as well from Asif and our audience. I think with that, I will hand it back to Rupal for some additional announcements.
Thank you so much, Samra and Avni. You both were absolutely terrific. What a great insight into what high school kids and middle school kids need to focus on. So we really, really appreciate it. I'm going to request Vanita Agarwal, who is our board member in ICC Tri-Valley. That's a new chapter that we've launched. She's going to talk a little bit about the youth programs that they are doing to serve the youth in the ICC Tri-Valley area. So Vanita, I'd request you to say a few words.
Thank you, Rupal, and thank you everybody for joining. At ICC Tri-Valley, by the way, before I go on to ICC Tri-Valley, I want to congratulate the two participants. I was there for the first half of the conversation, and I'm totally impressed by both of you. At ICC Tri-Valley, just wanted to give you some updates on what kind of youth programs we are. In the past, we have done a lot of free workshops on cultural activities like singing and dancing. We just had our creative writing contest last month, actually this month, 2 weeks back, the creative writing contest. We've had a multiple series of mental health for the youth. In fact, there is one coming up next month as well, which is actually student-led. We have very talented youth who just like, Avni and I'm forgetting the name, sorry. They come and talk about their challenges, how they, how they and their parents have helped them, or the kind of challenges that they have faced, and what did they do to overcome that. That is coming up next month. And sometime in May, if I'm correct, yes, sometime in May, we are actually planning to bring a hackathon for all the students here. So, I encourage all of you to keep tab on our upcoming events, icctrivalley.org, and happy to answer any other questions if there are on the ICC Tri-Valley for the youth. That's it, Rupal.
Thank you so much, Manita. We really appreciate that you talked about your ICC Tri-Valley program. With this, we are going to end our session. So thank you again to all the ICC board members, Shaoli, Paras, and Asif for leading this program. And thank you so much for Vanita for joining the session. And thank you so much to Samra and Avni. You both were absolutely terrific. So thank you.